going, game? I think I've got the WCS logos mod on. Yeah, whoops. This is obviously not the WCS StarCraft 2, the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. I hate the logos mod because it isn't something you can just turn on and off in game. It's something that to turn on and off, you actually have to like delete a file or drop a file into your like documents folder, which is like not really frustrating or difficult to do by any stretch of the imagination. It's just much more effort to do than not doing it at all. Like it's just like, you know, I can't just turn it off now and remember. Out of game editing things, god damn it. Anyways, let's kick this off. It will be best of ones for the initial matches here today, of course, guys. We will start off in the first round, which is, well, first round is round of 128. We actually start off here in this round of 64 matchup, but we will move on through. And round of 64, 32, and 16 will be best of one when we hit the round of 8. That is when we're going to have those best of 3s starting on up and giving us some action. So top right hand side in this best of 1 TVT from Team Red Bloods, it's our green Terran player. It is Lillekanin. And to the bottom right hand side, oops, sorry, my fingers got stuck on the backspace key. Bottom right hand side, our red Terran player, it is Cass. Wow, the graphics card is having such a better time than my old one. My old one was like so heavily maxed out. We could probably even up the graphics settings. Oh, we're already on high. We probably could still up them a bit further though. Because man, my old graphics card was like maxing out on like the intro to the game. It really was time for it to be, I mean, obviously I had a new graphics card to come into this PC, and the whole issue was like Windows 10 plus XSplit plus the graphics card had some issues. We kept getting graphic device driver failures. But, well, we don't have those, we'll hopefully not have those anymore because we're back on Windows 7 and so on. And as we kick off into this game, yeah, I put my new one back in basically, so... Yeah, hopefully the graphics... Sorry, this was just like 3 sentences which made no sense at all. Like, I just jumped between saying 3 different things. But, basically, our my graphics card is better again now, which is, of course, fantastic. Lovely, and it means we just have a bit of a better quality stream. So what's happening here in the early stages? Nothing too crazy. A couple of Reapers and a Hellion out of Lillekanin poking forwards. Did Cass lose? Did he just not make Reapers? He just went into a Marine initially, bypassing the Reaper stage of the game for himself. He's starting to take some damage on these Marines though, does have to be cautious. Lillekanin will poke up this ramp, and Reaper's going to take the chance to come up here as well. Pop him back down. Could have maybe just lined up that entire kind of attempt to harass a little bit better. Just to sort of come in with the Hellion and Reapers at the same time. I think he probably could have won the fight with some good grenades. 1 Hellion against 1 Hellion, 2 Reapers against the 2 Marines. I think it goes the way of Lillekanin. Not that it would have been problematic. I mean, you know, new units are popping out all the time from Cass to help him defend, but it might have just been a bit better than what ended up happening. At the same time, I mean, Lillekanin didn't exactly lose anything, so that wasn't, you know, it wasn't a bad thing at the end of the day. It could have maybe looked a little bit better. Anyways, he gets the full scout of the main base Lillekanin, which means he knows exactly what this is. Cloak Banshee on the way, and it is starting to move up the right-hand side of the map. As a Hellion goes down as well, I mean, at this point, these earlier units are becoming less and less important because you're not going to use Reapers and Hellions generally in the later stages of your game. I mean, they're very nice initially because in the first 10 to 15 army supply, they are a pretty distant chunk of your army supply, so that extra damage would be missed. But this sort of scenario now, when there's a couple of Cyclones up and a Raven, etc., they're not as important as we're going to be seeing. Well, obviously the Cloak is not going to matter at all here. The Cyclones lock on. And unfortunately for Cass, there's going to be 1 very dead Banshee. He'll get up, just 1 kill actually, because then he target fires down the Cyclone. He doesn't actually target fire it down, he just target fires it down to a little bit lower health. So it's a little bit unfortunate, because Lillekanin here ends up in a position where he shut down the first Banshee with no damage taken at all, bar 1 SCV kill. And that's not the sort of damage you're looking for as Cass. I mean, that's a huge investment, really. He invests into the... he invests into the Banshee and the Cloak, and he gets 1 worker for it. Now he's making Ravens, so it's not like he's going to get further value out of that Cloak upgrade. Unless he goes back into Banshees, but is that even worthwhile with the Raven being up? Well, no, probably not. And to be fair, this is kind of why we don't see much Cloak Banshee playing TVT at the moment. With the metagame being so heavily favourable towards players who open with the Raven or 2, then obviously it makes a lot of sense to not make, you know, Banshees with Cloak, because if there's already Ravens out, you know, Banshees definitely can still do damage. They can still find those openings and pick off some SCVs. But the overall kind of reality of the world is just the fact that it's going to be less likely that those Cloak Banshees find damage. You're just better off opening Ravens yourself and bypassing that stage where you're just wasting a bit of an investment. You can see it already here. You know, 2 Vikings already up from Lillekanin. He actually only went 1 Raven, but he definitely had the time to go for a second one. As tank on the way up, and again just producing more and more Vikings, getting those set to roll. Lillekanin is just taking now his natural expansion, so setting this up down to the low ground, and I guess we'll have the kind of the future for us told here very shortly as to whether Lillekanin will throw down double gases and going towards a mech play, or whether he's going to throw down a you know, a couple of barracks and just sort of go from there. 3rd CC will come down initially, which makes sense. I mean, you're very safe and well defended off of just a 1-1-1 setup in TVT, and there is that factory coming down. So it is indeed going to be mech out of Lillekanin against the bio play of Cass. So a little bit of a mixture here in our first matchup of the day, which is always nice to see. Bio against mech can make for some very entertaining Terran versus Terran games. It's sort of, for me, it's the sort of in the middle. It's like the in the middle sort of composition matchup in TVT. I think Marine Tank against Marine Tank is the most fast-paced, exciting, and interesting. And a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I think the kind of bio against mech play is just a little bit slow and a little bit. It can make for fantastic games, but I think the Marine Tank just does that a little bit more often. And then there's mech against mech, which is really a little bit stale. It's a very different game, mech versus mech, to most of the matchups, just with how positional and slow it is. And it's just so much, way more about positions than anything else, and slow attacks and holding down this location, expanding towards that base, while leaving enough tanks here and there. It's, I mean, TVT is a pretty stellar matchup, isn't it? The fact that you have so many viable different ways to open, is going to see point defense drone comes down, double PDD out of Lillekanin, but he's going to run out of PDDs faster because there is just the double Raven from Cass, and that will make a bit of a difference. He drops the auto turrets down to try and fight those Vikings, which doesn't actually end up going too well for him. Meanwhile, the rest of the army from Cass here is still moving forwards and have a little bit of a look to see what he can do. Those auto turrets could have been really nice at the front, man, if he'd used those to kind of soak some tank shots, take down a tank or two, and then use, get through the front with the rest of the army. Could have been pretty near, as Vikings going to lift up into the sky, and you're just going to see, again, that armory just building in the back of this mineral line. So again, Vikings, couple of Ravens just going to come up in towards the main base. I mean, Cass falls back, which against a mech player who's set up with multiple tanks is natural, probably the best thing to do. When you're playing against mech, you sort of have to let them take 2 and 3 bases without pressuring too much, because you just don't have the ability to abuse what mech is weak against at this stage of the game. Whereas in, 3 or 4 minutes, Lillekanin will be much more spread out, there's going to be more openings, more chances to drop around the map. And those are all going to be things where the bio player will excel against the mech in Terra. And there's a couple of scans from Lillekanin just to see that CC. He does. So he knows there's a third up, was maybe just trying to check where the army was as well, keep track of things. I mean, for the mech play, obviously, keeping track of the bio army is super important. And I am surprised, though, that Cass will throw his third CC down in the direction of his opponent. Going to throw this third down over here. Going to be kind of, again, expanding towards his opponent. Because, I mean, the bio player is the one that wants to control the map and attack around. But the last thing you want is to make it as easy as possible for the mech player to go for a doom push just towards your base, which is just going to make your life so difficult. And that's exactly what Lillekanin will be able to do with the 3rd CC coming down closer to him. It's going to be so much easier for him to push down the right-hand side and just leapfrog tanks forward through this narrow pathway, whereas, I guess if you have it over here, it just takes that little bit longer to hit. You got a bit more space to work with. He's got to push up this ramp at some point. If in this position here, you can engage from here and there. I don't know. It's an interesting choice, and obviously it's very dependent on how you feel you're going to play. Obviously, Cass wants to say, oh no, these SCVs are in trouble. Triple Hellion, and those SCVs are lining up massively. Look at the damage being done as Cass loses. I mean, not an entire mineral line, but man, he loses a good chunk of it. Tanks will siege at the front here, as Hellions are still uncounted in now the 3rd base. More and more SCVs going down, mules as well. And this really has been just insane down. Only 14 workers somehow. I mean, that is really not as many as I thought. I was thinking like 20 plus. The fact he leaves with only 15 kills. I mean, I say only 15. 15 is obviously fantastic, considering this was only, triple Hellion. it's a very low commitment from Lillekanin who gets so much value. And he even saves 2 of the Hellions as well. I mean, on top of that, there is a lot of lost mana time for cast too, so that does come into play. As this air army from Lillekanin making life difficult for cast, because now you just can't quite as easily kind of keep track. He has to keep dropping scans, but he is limiting Lillekanin to 3rd base. Or what, from his 3rd base. 2 more tanks push forwards. Nice scan from cast, but oh really, this tank isn't in range? That's unfortunate. We're going to be seeing still a tank for a tank here in the end. Lillekanin just trading a little bit better, and I wonder if Cass has just been a little bit overzealous, still trying to hold such a tight contain on his opponent. If he just moves out here and backs away a little bit, again, it opens up other opportunities for the next stage of the game. I mean, he's done a great job delaying the 3rd CC, but I think at this stage, he wants to make sure that he's not going to be kind of losing too much while slowing the 3rd CC down. As Lillekanin will push out, and he's going to expand towards towards the bio player as well. So both players are expanding towards each other. That means that their bases are almost within kind of a screen height from each other. You can sort of just about, if we kind of got rid of the overlay here. Wow, I haven't done this for a long time. Get rid of the overlay. We are just about, you can just about squeeze in the top gas there and the top gas there, the bottom gas there and the top gas here. And that's just about in the same screen. So that's pretty crazy how close they are right now. And that means it's so important, of course, for for Lillekanin to make sure that he is defended from the top side as well, though, because that's where the bio player will look to kind of move around. But again, it's just going to limit the potential for counterattack because the bio player does not have as much time to get a counterattack going for himself. As you see, the triple Hellion getting just roasted away at here. As yeah, those Hellions just going to get picked off nice and quick, and Lillekanin still just gathering his units up towards the 3rd base. Lots of Vikings and a couple of Liberators in play as well now, as we see Viking count is actually 18 apiece. Still double Raven though for Lillekanin. We're going to see PDD already going down. I mean, the PDDs will make the biggest difference of all of this. No ship weapons on either player, so this should just be a victory in the skies for Cass. He's going to take down this Viking fleet, and he's going to have overwhelming numbers. You can already see him rebuilding a couple of Liberators, because he knows that's his plan. You know, he wants the Liberators to come in here, and with those Liberators, he's going to be able to push in towards those siege lines. Now, the 1-4 at the front is the one thing that will make this very difficult to kind of be a reality, as we see, again, air control, and because of this, Cass is able to just sort of keep on firing away. These Liberators really cannot show up fast enough. There he goes, sieging. There's going to be already 1 dead siege tank, and well, now Lillekanin has to find a response. The 4 will be able to fire from a distance, though, and again, the 4 is kind of the saving grace right now, but if that 4 goes down, then that's going to be really, really difficult to deal with these Liberators. You're going to see the Liberator trying to get on top of the 4. It does run through tank fire, and now that 4 definitely is dead. So the Liberator can keep on pushing forwards, and I think Lillekanin is really running out of options right now. Another couple of shots, and tank will just go a little bit lower. Vikings now going to continue to fire onto this orbital as it lifts up, backs away, and the bio player with the kind of switch into just heavy sky play is going to make this work out for himself. As you can see, that CC being chased away here. These SCVs going to come in and just try and repair up the orbital command. They actually get shot down by the Vikings. Another victory for Cass, who at this point just needs to find a way to kill the mech army. Not going to be easy. I mean, with so many tanks, you can't just move up this ramp and just say, it's okay, I'll just remax and go again. You do have to be a bit more cautious than that, I feel, and you'll have to go in from a couple of angles, find the right positions. This Bio 4 is actually pretty heavily kind of beat up a bit, I guess, because of the lack of medevac production, as this has just been about massive Vikings up until now for Cass. Man, the difference those extra PDDs made was absolutely huge. The point defense run is really just the reason that we saw the mech player kind of just lose out in the skies. I mean, they went into it with an even number of Vikings, but it was just such a one-sided victory after Lillekanin had 2 more point defense runs. They just soak up so many shots, and that means so many more Liberators survive, of course. Vikings survive, of course, which just makes the future kind of engagement pretty neat. As we see a scan, you'll see there's not that many tanks here. I mean, that's an engageable number, maybe not as 2 more sort of siege up. He's going to keep on playing it slowly. The medevac goes down. I think he's still a little bit concerned about potentially just stimming forward with the lower health units. Vikings live being kept in the back, will stack them up together now and start to run forwards. They want to try and keep the libs in the back. I mean, they'll be able to keep some of the Vikings alive for a while. The reality is you do want them to kind of come in here and actually siege up and do what they're made to do. 2 more starports on the way from KeeN, realizing still here that he knows the importance of the air control and that he just needs to make sure he keeps that going for himself. Kind of losing another force. We'll see one medevac does find a way in towards the main base. Will get shot down eventually, but the Marines doing a decent job to actually put the Vikings back. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a little bit of harassment, but once again, just starting to pull Lillekanin apart just a little bit more. Every little opportunity here, basically. Vikings land to really help this out. Vikings do pretty good against low numbers of bio. Still though, the tanks edge further forwards, and now the mineral line under fire as well. So far, doesn't matter because Lillekanin is heavily oversaturated with no other base to send these workers to. But that only lasts so long as actually. Meanwhile, Lillekanin can counter-attack down here, and well, this is going to be KeeN taking some damage of his own on his third base. But he's got a fourth base set up, and he's got a fifth CC ready to fly out as well. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's not the best situation, but it will still, in the end, kind of be okay. You know, he still has mining. It actually loses the Vikings up in the sky, so those extra starports will become very important now for KeeN. As Lillekanin is still trying to hold on to his third base. The problem is, though, he's not mining from a couple of his mineral patches. He's having to use some of his, well, very low work count to continuously repair this CC. Because he cannot afford to go down to only one orbital command, as a very low number of bio units getting dropped on top of a few of these tanks, and these tanks will get cleaned up in the end. So nice cleanup over here by sorry, read the chat as well. Nice cleanup there by KeeN as Lillekanin. Again, another option for him disappearing right there. This is going to be seen again. Some Vikings up in the sky, and these missiles just being fired away upon by these siege tanks and so on. Again, a lot of bio going to come up the right. And have a little bit of a look to see what's going to be happening. 5 Marauders on the way out of time. And that advanced ballistics as well, that lib range will help a lot against the 4s, which is pretty much the only reason the Liberator's on game ending right now, I suppose. The 4s saving the day multiple times. Lillekanin will type out those small attack from KeeN coming in towards the natural, which he just doesn't have a way to deal with. GG's. And I just sort of chilled and kind of watched. I woke up very early yesterday, so I went to bed pretty early as well to kind of just you know, stay on a... It was amazing. Like, usually when I wake up early and I'm tired through the day, you know, I'll just be like the devil and just go for a nap and completely just waste the opportunity that I have to just do anything productive because I'm just tired. I'll just nap and all the rest of it. Yesterday I stayed awake all day, so I don't know what was up with that, but it was pretty cool. It was neat. Anyways, we're into our second matchup of the day, guys, and it is to the bottom right-hand side of the map, our blue Terran player from My Insanity. Yes, it's another TVT, but yeah, I think we're in kind of a nice little section of bracket here, and especially means that we can just come out of one game and more or less go into the next one without too many troubles or concerns, which is always nice in these best of 1 stages, especially because it's very frustrating to have to try and find another matchup every single time you come out of game. You know, it's bad enough in the best of 3 every 2 or 3 maps you got to go and find other players and check to see who's starting and stuff. It's even worse if you have to do that after every single map, because of the best of 1. And this is still best of 1 here in the round of 32 of today's Go4SC2. This is the bottom right hand side from My Insanity, the blue Terran player, Beastyqt. And look at the smoothness of just the movements. It's amazing. Can't believe it. And the new graphics card in was a good call. Bottom left, our red Terran player from Cascade. Give it up for Cass, who has been, again, kind of, I guess, on the way up again lately. Cass is this player who's obviously been around for years and years and years. He really has been. I mean, he goes way back to... I mean, I remember him when he started playing SC2, when he was playing in the early stages of Wings of Liberty. Cass was one of the first pro players I commentated a series of, actually, if I remember correctly as well. Back with SCV Rush. Was it Cass? I think Cass was in a tournament that I was covering with SCV Rush back then. Man, that was way back. I actually remember a whole bunch of those games that we discussed. Crazy. Crazy. Anyone know where you can watch the Austin English VODs? Twitch.tv/StarCraft. Should have them all up. Oh, I believe the WCS channel is already uploading them to YouTube as well. Hopefully that helps you find what you're looking for, Fangers of Legend. That'll be for the games that are on the mainstream, of course. streams that, or games that are cast on day one by community casters will probably be on their channels, and some of the round of 16 was cast by Beastyqt TV as well, which you can head on over to. And I believe at the moment they have subscriber VODs turned off, which means that you can watch the VODs no matter what. 2 Reapers against 2 Reapers, and a Hellion is going to go the way of the player with the Hellion, believe it or not, and also to the player who had the advantage of the high ground. Beastyqt loses both Reapers right from the get-go there. Now we're just going to be seeing the Hellion and a couple of Reapers just sat towards the ramp. CC coming down on the natural, both players will expand at a pretty similar time in here after the starport has come up. I'm going to see a Viking initially from Beastyqt before he goes into the Raven, as he just repositions that barracks a little bit and just lines up his production all nice and neatly. You ever wonder why kind of Terran players do this? It's one of these things that I guess we don't talk about a lot as casters, but it's one of these things that having your production in a nice line allows you to just create very neat and easy ways to move around your base. If your production's all messed up, there's more chance of units getting stuck, or units as a Widowmine goes off on the frontier and helps quite nicely to defend. There's just more chance of units in general getting kind of caught up in the wrong positions, and it just creates clear avenues as well. If you need to run back to the back of your base to kind of deal with a drop, the last thing you want is to kind of go zigzaggedy to make it there. It's much faster, much easier if you just go in a straight line and you get there, ASAP to shut down that aggression. So that's quite important to see this couple of Cyclones getting rid of that order turret. And we do just see the Viking is going to chase away the Raven, so Raven going to get pushed away. He just gets shot down actually. That's a pretty big pickoff by Beastyqt. He killed the Raven right from the get-go, shutting down that that source of harassment and danger that generally kind of extends throughout the early stages of the game through into the mid-game even. And even later in the game, I mean, we saw last game, cast against the Lillekanin, the Ravens became a big part of why he won the game, able to use multiple point defense drones in a much larger fight about 7 to 8 minutes in, so I guess that's kind of mid-game, but Ravens definitely do have their uses and worth keeping alive. The efficiency of them is generally why you just see them being so useful throughout the early stages as well. Just going to be seeing the Raven, just going to come all the way over to the right-hand side of the map now. A couple more barracks starting up in the main base of Cass in the meantime. It's just setting up into the 3 racks. Starport going to put a reactor on itself, and Cass's third CC about to finish up. Not too far behind Beastyqt. Both players here opting for the third command center rather than the second and third racks super quickly, as Beastyqt is also looking to play mech here today, so that's pretty neat. A mech play for the second time today is yeah, it's different. I mean, mech isn't usually what we see a lot from Terran players, even in the TVT nowadays, so interesting to see 2 players attempting it here in a row, and I guess we'll sort of see what the differences are as we go in towards the later stages of the game between Beastyqt and Lillekanin, so that Beastyqt can survive where Lillekanin did not. So far, I'd say one of the big differences is that Beastyqt does have double Raven, and considering that both players, well, the fact that Cass went in towards a lot of Vikings last time, it could be very suggestive that Cass will want to go into a lot of Vikings this time, but the double Raven it's just going to counteract kind of a Raven advantage of his opponent. In fact, Cass is the player with just 1 Raven this time, so a little bit of a difference compared to the previous scenario against Lillekanin, where he had 2 Ravens against the 1. There's a couple more Vikings come out here. Just going to see Hellion still just collecting together just down this ramp. There are the 2 Ravens and the Vikings starting to head down in towards the natural expansion 2. Looking to see what they can get up to and all the rest of it as well. So still looking to see what's going on. 3 more factories starting to build from Beastyqt. It's going to be 5 factories in total. That's a very decent amount of factories, honestly. I mean, I guess he's on 3 CCs, right? So it's just his mid-game production, which is all going to be set up. It's pretty much being, it's kind of like being on kind of the 5 racks in the factory in a starport. Generally, you'll go up to the 6th and 7th racks soon after the 3rd CC lands, so I guess just the production sort of lined up kind of pretty neatly for now. As Cass, well, we'll start to see what he wants to do over the next few moments, as he will be trying to catch this Widowmine. Widowmines are pretty fast, man. You ever noticed that? Let's scan just to make sure. I don't think it was actually necessary, but just in case, wants to make sure it's not going to be a problem at all. I mean, again, it could have been a meal, but could be worse things. Anyways, going to see Hellion still join up to the south, and Tank's just going to siege a little bit, start pushing forwards, and put the medevac's just up in the sky. The scan here from Beastyqt will just reveal that army, and looks as though he's just going to pull back to kind of defend back at his third base. He's not going to use these Hellions to run by and hit a mineral line or anything, which he could have done. He was in a great position to do so. Even if he just left 3 or 4 behind him and brought the rest back, that might have been worthwhile, but maybe he just feels like he needs absolutely everything here in this, forward engagement to make sure that he doesn't run into issues. He's going to start working his way through this coolant tower, try and block off this direction of attack from KeeN for a few moments. It looks as though it will work out for him. Coolant tower will go down, and that's okay for now. We're going to see the Vikings are looking for themselves a pick off on a medevac or so, just to make life a little bit more frustrating for KeeN. No medevacs, no healing, no drop potential either. Armory going to be finishing up in the back of the main base in just a few moments' time. Another scan comes down. There's still a whole chunk of units here from Beastyqt just sat out in front of the third base, just knowing that this is the position he needs to defend, and he's kind of got through the scary stage of this, I think, which is, whoa, he unsieges just as these units start moving forwards. All the turrets are going to drop down like crazy on either side. There's so much bio here. The 3 tanks do stay alive for a long time from Beastyqt. But KeeN, well, I mean, the Vikings can land now as well, but he's lost the tanks already. Maybe just waiting a little bit too long to land those Vikings. Beastyqt is just going to be broken straight up. Man, that was unfortunate. You unsiege his tanks at the moment that KeeN starts throwing down turrets to engage into this. And that is so... it's just the worst timing possible for BC, obviously. I mean, KeeN lost a lot, and again, maybe the Vikings could have just landed a little bit faster, helped to protect the siege tanks just that little bit more, and every little thing will help in that scenario. So, wow. I mean, BC holds on. It's not game over here just yet, as we see him playing this sort of mech style. I mean, it's difficult to kind of end games against mechs. So if you can hold 3 bases and KeeN takes a couple of bad fights, it's definitely possible that Beastyqt finds a way back into this. But as it stands, it's not really kind of a guaranteed situation, as you see these barriers coming down south. A little bit of a Hellion run by. I do feel as though just leaving some Hellions kind of at the back here initially, way back when, would have been a fantastic way to distract, do some damage of his own, and put himself in a better position to stim in with pretty much everything. You see tanks being targeted down. All the turrets again going to do a little bit of the tanking here. We're just going to be seeing Beastyqt again in trouble, evacuating the third base. Meanwhile, the Hellions over here turned away by a group of units as well. This is looking very, very solid indeed for KeeN, who is looking to move into the round of 16, of course, of today's competition. The Hellions just sat south of the third right now, and still again looking for an opportunity to kind of harass on in and just to do something. And well, he's going to scan again. He sees the army moving out. It's so predictable though when you're throwing down these scans again and again and again. But I mean, that you want to do something. I mean, why would you scan this, the third base twice, other than to time out a run by nicely? Kind of surprised that KeeN didn't pick up on that. Then again, he's got reinforcements pretty close by anyways, so I don't think it should stop him from moving out. Should just be aware that this is probably a possibility. As he runs in, picks off a Hellion. The rest of the Hellion's going to get hit by the Flamgy Fortress on the 4th. KeeN continuing to maintain the map control, just moving around and thinking about where he wants to attack next. Well, he only really has one main target, which is the third base, which is just relocated from the front position to the 4th. He's actually just going to stim in though when he realizes that he just has enough to move into this sort of location. You may as well go for the kill. The single G is typed on out for Beastyqt. We got some SIGs in the chat, please, as KeeN will take this game and he'll move in. All my predictions in the round of 16 were pretty much spot on. Even a lot of the map scores were correct. Apart from the 2 series that I got wrong, were the 2 series that I called as a 3-2. And I just called it the wrong way, and I said it was going to be pretty close anyways, which is I thought was pretty sick. Then in the round of 8, my predictions just got kind of ruined, so rip the dream. I thought I had some good predictions. They started off very promising. I went to sleep, woke up, and the world had tipped on its head. Anyways, let's go into this, guys, as we kick off into another best one. This might be our last best one of the day. We might have another round of 16 match after this, just in case, if this is like the fastest round of 16 match to happen, then there might not be a round of 8 ready when we come out, so we might have just another round of 16. But we shall see as we kick on into, again, another TVT. I'm obviously sorry for all of the kind of the same matchup, but again, as I've been saying, it's nice to just sort of have a section of the bracket we can follow. I mean, they're good matchups, KeeN against Lillekanin, Beastyqt, KeeN. They're good matchups, so nice to just jump into a section, stick with this section, and just sort of follow it through. It makes the stream just a little bit smoother, means I don't have to fret so much about fighting different games so much. And I do apologize. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's all TVT, but after this there should be some non-TVTs coming up, guys, so just in case you aren't entertained by the mirror matchups, we will have something a bit different shortly. As we kick this off to the top right hand side of the map, our blue Terran player, give it up if you're going to be cheering on KeeN. He's going up against the red Terran to the lower left hand side of the map. It is, of course, Cass, who've been seen doing pretty well so far for himself. Taking down a couple of Terran players up until this point. Taking down, again, Lillekanin and Beastyqt, both of which have played mech so far. I am intrigued as to what exactly KeeN will play, because he doesn't really... KeeN's a player who will play a lot of different kind of weird little things, as right now in Proxima he does just open with a nice quick expansion, while Cass opts for that double gas, even though this is generally a very expansion-friendly map. But yeah, KeeN's the sort of player who he sort of strikes me as the player who doesn't really... I mean, for some reason I feel as though I want to say he doesn't really play mech, but I know for a fact that he does sometimes. I just think in the TVT he's going to play a bit more sort of straight up, which is just like looking towards Marine Tank against Marine Tank. Sorry, this Reaper is making me dizzy. Let's move away over here as we see once again out of Cass. Pretty much the same setup as we have seen previously. Marine production into a Widow Mine, probably a Cyclone as well in a moment or so. And he'll still have the gas to afford a Raven on the starport, so nothing really too crazy right from the get-go. Oh, he's going to go Cloak Banshee. Okay. I mean, this was something we saw in game number in the first game of the day against Lillekanin, of course. So, Cloak Banshee, again, we'll see what it can get done here as we look towards the opening of KeeN, which again has been just this little bit of a faster expand. This factory should lift off of this tech lab, and that should be reserved pretty much for the starport, I imagine. No, build a Viking first. Okay then. I guess he's going to build a tank too and just play like a super hyper defensive opening. So he's going to have Vikings in the, to deal with the sky use. He's going to have a tank which is pretty good on the ground. Apart from against maybe a Cyclone in the super early stages if it isn't sieged up, or if the Cyclone closes the distance, which it shouldn't be able to do given the fact that it's Proxima stations. So a very defensive build here early, as we see the Widow Mine will clean out the Reaper. KeeN will not pick up any scout information at all in these early stages as the Banshee does start to move on up towards the upper right hand side of the map. And just looks to try and get some damage done. Again, no Raven for KeeN, which means that he is going to be needing scans / a missile turret. Right now he is just coming up to having the scan available. Does he throw down the mule or does he save it? I think KeeN's good enough to know that this is a good Banshee timing, and so he's going to save that scan, especially as he sees the Banshee. He knows it's very much so going to be something that's essential to his build right here. As there's that cloak, he'll wait for the Viking to come across just to make sure he's going to have the correct scan to place, and is he going to throw it down? He might not. He might just keep on trying to ward the Banshee away. And he has this kind of... He just knows that if he throws a scan at the moment, it's going to escape away from the Viking range. And that's why Raven is just so good against this sort of situation, as the Banshee finds himself 5-6 kills. Again, though, the problem is if you throw down a scan, you're not actually guaranteed to kill this Banshee with just a Viking in the sky. So it's a very frustrating situation as KeeN losing a lot of workers and Cass making up for what is a much slower expansion of his own. Not worth scanning any longer because the Banshee's about to run out of energy, and I think KeeN should know this, and there it is. It's out of energy, and he's able now to push this away once and for all. At least, I say once and for all, but actually maybe not for all, because Banshee will stay alive, and so it could come back in at a much later point. 8 workers killed, Banshee alive, and Cass has found himself some fantastic damage in these very early stages of the TVT, putting him into the sort of position he will love to be in, moving on forwards. Meanwhile, Widow Mine just burrows atop this ramp. This Raven as well will be looking around to see where else it can go. Looks as though it might come around all the way around the right-hand side. And again, a couple of these barracks just going to be finishing up in the next couple of moments, allowing him to go in towards his sort of mid-game production. Third CC will be the choice, though, from KeeN, so a little bit of a different way to play as he has now. Double medevac out, he's got a Raven and a Viking, so he's going to go for like this classic sort of double medevac drop, which is 2 tanks and 8 Marines. Meanwhile, the Raven will harass in towards the natural expansion, so he's going to move forwards with this and try and throw down a couple of order turrets. Not many places to run as the SCVs of KeeN right here, and he's struggled to get into the back, but only 3 workers lost, not too bad against double turret. Well, the Banshee moving out again, it just means there isn't very much in position Well, okay, there's a few Marines, but the double tank could be dangerous if it sieges up, of course. If you have to run into a siege tank, or two, it can be very, very deadly. Marines will keep on unloading. That tank does siege, but it's going to just get shot down very quickly. Marines will want to push on forwards, but they're so clumped, they're going to take so much damage, and yes, it will be a cleanup for Cass. But he loses a lot in the process. He loses, well, I guess he kills off 2 tanks and loses a tank of his own, but he lost a lot of Marines, and I'd say it's a pretty effective little trade out of KeeN. Banshee is back across the map. This time goes down with the missile turret being available just behind the mineral line here, so that Banshee getting shot down. We've had too much of an issue, as the 2 medevacs will boost up in towards the main base. And again, Marines attack. Gonna load up again. KeeN gonna go for yet another drop, so he's just gonna keep applying the pressure. Does not want to give this up, as he has got the 3rd CC, and well, now here comes his extra barracks. So much later on the extra racks, but obviously much faster 3rd command center. So the 2 major different ways basically to play out the TVT kind of bio play. Now the Stimpak's actually not going to be too far behind from KeeN, because he does have a barracks on Tech Lab. He's going to have way less Marines, as oh man, Cass is dropping across the map himself, but obviously his attack is going to come in so much later just because KeeN is already unloaded here, so this is very awkward. Meanwhile at home, KeeN doesn't have too much, and this could turn into a bit of a weird base trade, which would be kind of maybe better for Cass overall, because actually he just has more units to speed this up, but especially if he gets rid of, say, Stimpak from upgrading. That could just slow down the entirety of this, of this base trade from KeeN's perspective. As we see Cass dropping in there, SCVs will start to disappear, and again, KeeN sort of feels that he has to start doing something very soon. Meanwhile, Cass, he will move forwards. You'll see that Stimpak upgrade, or you'll see something upgrading, which, I mean, it should be worth targeting down, but he's not going to go for it just yet. He's going to chase the Vikings now. He's going to go for it 5 seconds until completion free. Oh, wow, he really could have gotten this, but it will finish. That's a pretty huge deal for KeeN. I don't know if it actually really matters, because at the end of the day right now, he's still losing production, whereas Cass kept a lot of his own production up, so this continued drops and moving across the map has ended up working out very, very well here for Cass. He's going to get rid of this siege tank now. So many workers going down. It looks like Cass will be the player to move on through into the round of 8. This TVT just so good today, continuing to perform. This siege tank is somehow just about still alive. We get one last shot onto these Marines. No, not quite, but well, still. 19 workers remain. In the meantime, Cass is set up onto a 3rd CC of his own. That base is saturating, and you can see this scan from KeeN is very much so like just checking how screwed I am sort of scan. He's like, well, maybe if he doesn't have a 3rd CC, I've got this, because my own 3rd CC will give me enough. As KeeN loses another couple of workers to the Raven in the natural expansion, he'll type out GG himself, and Cass advances on through to the quarterfinals and the